Our guest today is a little bit different than the other ones that we've had on so far, but I would honestly call him the Michael Jordan of the stock market, college dropout, and CEO of Noremac Newell Trading. Cameron Newell, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really excited to have you on here. It's a little bit different. Get some insight into the financial world, and you've
Yeah,
made quite a name for yourself. So I'd like to hear what you have to say, and I'm sure all the listeners I have out there will love to hear what you have to say too. So, can
yeah,
you
I'm
just,
excited.
yeah, for sure. Can you just give the listeners a quick history of your upbringing, life, and some key events that happened along the way?
Yeah, so if we go back to when I first started everything, I have always been frugal with what I do in life, and my friends always gave me crap about me not spending money and always kind of like living life, at my terms of basically instead of people going to, let's say, a nice steakhouse, I might go to McDonald's, right? Or I just was very frugal with what I did early on to a point where my friends did notice it and they give me crap about it. And now being in the position that I'm at, I can kind of understand how that can feel. But overall, it's more of just like going back and realizing that really did help me in the long term, because I found trading from a friend. His name's Jake, and we were in class one day in high school and he showed me Robinhood, which was free. It was free commission. And I never heard that before. I knew things in life always cost. It doesn't matter where you're at, doesn't matter, who you are. There's things in life that cost: food, hospitals, even an organization like the Tampa Bay Rays have to develop who they're going to pay and who they're not. It's all just a part of life and what we deal with. And so I had to figure out a way to kind of create that opportunity for myself. And so Jake told me about Robinhood, and I saw it was free commission, and that's the first time I ever considered trading because it was free.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't think too much about it. At that time, I was in high school, and I was like, yeah, I just don't want to lose any money. I was still too frugal, but I knew that it was free, and I was really on the fence about it. And then I knew he was trading a little bit, which was cool. And I saw, he made a little bit on like what I think it was R&N Pharmaceuticals at the time, which now they're no longer in business, or if they are, they're just no longer, they're nothing. Matter of fact, let me just look that up really quick. R&N. Yeah, I don't see them. But so, and basically by seeing that, I kind of just got more and more interested. I had it in the back of my head going into college. I did 2 years at a community college. My mom signed me up for the wrong degree. And so I thought I was in air traffic, or I thought I was in being like a meteorology. I was going to be a weatherman.
Right.
My brother was an air traffic controller, and I was still learning cloud. So it all made sense, but it was for a completely different degree because she signed me up for the FAA. And I said I wanted to be a meteorologist. Tells you how much I really was doing with my life at that point. My mom was
Right.
really helping me with a lot of my life early
Yeah.
on. And I come to like half the year, and I go in and I speak to my counselor. I'm like, you're taking, FAA classes. I don't know why you're talking about meteorology. So I just wasted, I don't know, 2 quarters of classes. Basically, maybe could use like one or two of them. And then I just decided, you know what? I don't even know what I want to do. I'm just going to get an AA at this point and be done with it. A lot of those credits I could use still for an AA. So I was like, okay, I got my AA, and then I went to, and I remember specifically being at Green River and trading a little bit during that time. I was on the computers, and I was just kind of like messing with my phone, Robin. And I think I was taking a couple of trades at that time, if I remember right. And then I think when I started to really take on trading, I was working for, and then I worked at Dominoes Pizza. It's kind of hard to put the time frame all together, but then I was working at Dominoes Pizza while I was going to Green River, and I was working about 30 hours a week being let's say 20 hours a week being a pizza delivery guy, and I thought the money was good, the tips were great, and so I just kind of did that for my life at that point. I didn't know what else to do. I was just trying to figure out a way to make a living at the time and still be going to college too. And so I did that. And then during that span, I lost, I remember specifically it was MGTI. I don't know if you know a guy named John McAfee.
Sounds really familiar for some reason.
Yeah, the security antivirus guy. He created McAfee
Right,
virus
right,
and
right.
stuff
Oh,
like that. And
that's
so
exactly right.
MGTI, he was now just becoming a owner of that company, or had a big say executive of that company at that point. He was talking about something like, they were going to be into Bitcoin mining, and Bitcoin was flying, and he was also like posting a lot. And it went from 40 cents up to $5 in about a week. And it took a ton of volume to get there. And long story short, I lost in one day. The stock went from $5.20 down to $2.30. And I was in it at $4.80. And I lost 50% of my account. And I couldn't get out because there's a rule in trading where you can only take 3-day trades a week if you're under $25,000 portfolio.
Mhm.
If you're under that mark, then you will be PDT, and they will flag you for 90 days, basically. And that's just to keep investors safe, is what they like to say, and I think that generally, it does keep them safe. But it's hard. And at that time, I was a big complainer about it because I wanted a day trade. But I think
Mhm.
overall, it's smart when you can't trade as much, because humans, when they see money, they run to it, right? And they keep
Right.
running to it. And investors will take so many trades in the beginning, and then all of a sudden you have nothing. And so they're trying to protect you a little bit with that. And I was stuck. I didn't even know it at the time, what that rule was, anything. I was stuck in about I think it was a $6,000 position at the time, and I lost $3,000. And I basically told everyone, I quit. I'm done with this. And I felt like a gambler. I had been losing. I already lost about half. That was about the half my net worth at that time. And I did honestly have to think about, maybe changing where I'm going to be lodging, or, staying for when I was going to be going to a new college. I don't know. It was a very kind of just real life check in that day. I remember that day very clearly. And, you know, seeing that, it definitely, oh, one second. Sorry about that.
No worries. Like I said, we could cut out whatever you need to cut out.
The water just turned back on. I thought I was making sure everything was okay. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So, basically, losing half my net worth like that, that day was a very, very, like, I'm not gonna, it was, sorry, come on, my camera will do that, but it was a very, very hard day, I guess. Just a life check moment, I guess. And realizing that, I going to college, there was things that I was having to look at a lot harder than I once was. And like I said, I told everybody I quit. I started working more hours at Dominoes. I tried to pick up shifts to make up for it. And I was basically just put in this situation where I had to figure it out. And I didn't want to be known as a gambler who lost everything. And at that time, I knew that I wasn't gambling because I saw people online all the time creating a living for themselves by doing this. I just needed to figure it out, and when my back was against the wall, I started up a 1,000 to 1 million challenge in college, literally in a tiny little cubicle, probably a fourth of the size of this room, and on a laptop with like 2 crappy monitors that I had. And I was able to, I think, get about 300K in college. And then I came home and I finished the challenge in this apartment, and I've done multiple challenges in this apartment ever since. And I'm still here now, but I'm looking at almost getting into a home here. It's been a while since we've owned the home, for now a year and a couple months. And now we're just trying to get into it if this remodeling can hurry up.
Yeah, I mean, no, honestly, you know, coming out of a kid from college to even turn 1,000 into 300,000. I mean, in college, if I could have done that, that would have, been a crazy concept to me. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that's very similar to, me starting off as a walk-on in junior college and ending up going to a Division 1 when I thought a Division 1 wasn't even a chance for me. I just wanted to make a JUCO team. So that's kind of a little bit of a similarity right there. But
Yeah.
No, man, you've had for sure a real crazy life story so far.
And
But
I want to tell everyone, that this isn't a realistic concept. What I'm doing is so, I truthfully don't know in my industry, and I do a ton of research in my industry. I don't know anybody who's really done 1,000 to 1 million, or right now we're at 1,000 to 17 million. I don't know anybody, who's done that. And so I'm just telling everyone out there, don't think that this is easy. Don't think that you just jump into this, because I have a room full of 60,000 people, and it's not. I see people fail
right,
every day, and I hate to see it. But
you think it
I'll say that,
probably comes down to just, learning your stuff. I mean, learning your stuff, hard work, how much time you put into it,
yeah,
what you follow, what you do. I mean, that's pretty much core concepts for, following whatever you're passionate in anyways. I mean, I'm sure in the financial world, it takes a little bit more of learning, like, the key concepts, the small things that people overlook, but it's still the same core values for sure.
yeah, and just putting in the time. Exactly, you pretty much said it. Putting in the time, knowing that how much you know is how you will perform. And I just love what I do. I love pushing things to the limit. And now I'm at a point in my career where I have enough capital to basically start doing things where I want to, my now I'm looking up, instead of day traders as much now, and I still day trade and I'm a swing trader, but I'm slowly but surely evolutionizing into something that's more of a liquidity type of names, large caps. And I'm trying to look up to more of like Peter Lynch, Mark Manavini, like Warren Buffett. And I saw that I didn't look up to them before, but now I'm really diving into their concepts and the way that they think and how they perform in bad years, how they perform in good years, how they deal with certain stocks being down 30%, 40%. When a market like today, we're down 2% in the SPY, with a lot of this war talk. There's just a lot of variables that you cannot control. You just have to put risk on your side and know that you're going to have bad days. You're going to have red days, but you have to keep yourself going and recognize that if your pattern recognition, if your, analysis on what you're looking at as you're doing everything right, then good things will come of it eventually. But don't oversize is the biggest thing. And that, size can really F you up mentally, because as soon as you take on, you know, a big amount of size, no matter how much you've studied, you'll just be so fidgety with it because you're just so worried. And it takes years and years to get yourself into a big position, where you can be confident, and it's all just a
Right.
percentage game. So
Yeah, I mean, I thought I saw a pretty cool little graphic design today of something similar to that would explain exactly what you're trying to say. It's like basically taking things smaller steps at a time instead of like larger steps. And it was a little graphic of like a stick guy, and there was these huge steps in front of him that were impossible to climb. And it was the same distance, the same length. And on the other graphic, it was the stick man, and it was a bunch of little steps going up that he was able to climb. And I feel like that pretty much, you know, replicates what you were trying to say right there. Is it's not so much, you're going to take a big step here and then another big step. It's like a ton of little steps to get to the end point of where you want to be.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, you just mentioned that you were trying to like learn stuff like how Warren Buffett, guys like that think. What kind of steps or what kind of things are you trying to take in from them, and how are you taking stuff in?
So I just try, and the biggest thing honestly that I try and study is I try and learn what they actually traded, what actually got them from point A to point B and everywhere in between. Like that was the biggest thing that I was studying, was what stocks did Warren Buffett get into, which believe it or not, he got into Disney at like 40 cents, sold it at like 60 cents, and now it's up to 100, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, that's just one of the many things that he's done over his career. And I just wanted to learn, what he got himself into and why he got himself into it. And then all the where in between, each trade that he took, which is actually pretty hard to find, and I'm still struggling with it. But I like to see track record of just exactly what he got in, what he got out of, because it doesn't matter, what all the things he studied. Okay. The biggest correlation of what he's learned is what he actually put his money into. and then where he got out of it and why he got out of it. Those are the biggest things. And then everything that he learned is also great. And that's easier to find. But actually finding, what he got himself to where he's at today in is what I wanted to learn. And then Peter Lynch is more closer to home with me because, he took 18 million to 14 billion in 13 years. And, that's kind of what I'm doing. That's where I'm at in my career. I want to take things to that next level. I want to be able to take my, I'm not going to say small amount, take an amount and percentage wise, get it there. And it's just compound growth over years and years. And there's a reason why every one of those guys are multi billionaires and they have gray hair because the market, it compounds itself, but it does take time, and if you're going to talk about getting to be, a billionaire, no matter where you're at in life, that takes time, and Peter Lynch did it. I think he was a billionaire when he was like 34, but then, or maybe it's 36. I don't know where it was, but then he just, he took it. And I think he's not really doing much these days, as far as I know. Warren Buffett decided to keep going, but the farther you get in the market, liquidity becomes more and more and more a problem. Warren Buffett would buy, 4 or 5 companies and be great. Now he's got to buy, probably he hedges with the market. He's got to buy, so many different things because he has so much size and ability now that it's harder to get percentages returns. And that's just a reality. When you start with a smaller amount, percentage returns are easier. The bigger the amount, the harder it gets percentage returns. So,
without a doubt.
And to answer your question, what do I look for? That was basically what I look for. And I go on YouTube a lot. I'm much more of a YouTube learner than I am a book learner. But I will say, as I'm getting older, I'm 27, but as I'm getting older, I read more and more, and I'm trying to push myself to read more and more. And a couple of books is 100 to 1000, and I studied both. I have 2 of those books, and they're the same concept, but different years. I think one's from 60 to 2000, and the other one's 2000, 2014, and it basically goes over all the stocks that have ran 10,000% or more. And what I did was I tried to go through each and every stock, and I'm still going through it. It's going to take me a long time to find correlations to how that can be recognized in the future. How can I find certain companies to put myself in a position where, okay, there it is. There's what I've been waiting for. That's what it looks like. And, then I can, set in it for, the quickest, I think 10,000% was reached was like 2 years. And the longest was like 30. One of the biggest runs of all time was a company called Monster Beverages. All they do is sell energy drinks, but no one would have bought them. The reason why they ran so much is because they probably IPO'd at such a small amount. No one really believed in it, but their earnings kept coming in strong quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. And you have to pay up when earnings are made. It doesn't matter what you think the company can do. If they're producing cash, if they're producing revenue, then people will pay up for that. And that's all just a part of the learning phase in the markets is finding what people will pay up for. And I do it on a shorter time frame, but I'm slowly evolving into a longer and longer time frame. And that's because liquidity is going to become more and more and more of a problem. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you definitely, just the more information that you could take in, and YouTube, like you said, it's a great place to find information for anybody. No matter what you have, it's going to be on YouTube, and you might not agree with everybody, but you might connect with some person that has something that you like to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and also, compounding off of YouTube, I was just taking a quick look through your social medias, both your private one and your companies, and there was like a definite change that I could see, like a specific line, right? I could tell you went from a typical college kid, posting golf pictures, all that kind of stuff, day to day, to aspiring CEO. And it's like you could have made 2 different Instagrams for that and like separated it. And how fast was that adjustment from you to go from being a typical college kid to aspiring CEO? And what were some of like the problems that you had? Because I know you said you left college. I'm sure there are people questioning that decision. Yeah, just what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because in high school, my GPA, I think it was like a 2.2.
Hmm.
Everybody was like, "And this guy's not going to do anything." I thought, okay, no, I didn't. I'm not be honest. I thought that I was going to do something. But going back to, kind of when it shifted from college into, being where I'm at today, you know, I recognize that high school and college only last so long. And I recognize that, I have a good time, have fun, but the reality is the majority of your life is going to be in your adulthood. And I wanted to
Yeah,
prepare myself. And that's why I play golf, because I know it's a long game. You can last forever. And it's something that I'm learning while a lot of my friends, well, luckily a lot of my friends do golf because I golf and I've gotten them into it, or I've given some of my hand-me-downs or whatever. But I recognize that that's a sport that starts being more and more and more of a thing as you get older and older. But I also love the challenge. The biggest thing I love about golf is you can go anywhere in the world, and there's always going to be golf courses, and they're so beautiful, and it just
true.
takes your mind off everything. Like, I'm not out there to shoot 60s. I'm not out there to just grind every putt out. I'm out there to have fun and be competitive about it because that's just the nature of who I am. But still have fun, enjoy. We're going to Hawaii in a couple weeks. We're playing a couple golf courses, and it's just the game is something that you can play for the rest of your life. And that's what I found the market, right? Like, I try to prepare myself for the rest of my life, and I recognized, that when I was in college, that I'm not going to be able to live under my parents' roof forever. And they did a good
Yeah.
job for me to basically kind of let me realize, they helped me out somewhat, but didn't help me out all the way. And that was a good learning curve for me to kind of like get to know what life's going to be all about.
Oh yeah.
And so, recognizing that early, I wanted to get myself into something um, that would pay dividends in the long term. Because from here on out, we're in adulthood. There is no going back to college. There is no going back to high school or middle school. Doesn't mean you can't reminisce. It doesn't mean you can't go back and remember the good times. And doesn't mean you can't visit them either. But we all get older and we all age. There's nothing about it. And that's, if you want to go something that's a little deeper, I mean, that's why, I really look into the concept. And I never thought, I don't like being this flashy Rolex guy. I mean, I got a Whoop on. I'm sitting in this shirt. Like, it's,
Whoop
yeah,
on too. Yeah.
yeah. I don't like being this guy who's just being looked at. And honestly, that's why I don't buy like Audi R8s or Ferraris, because I actually don't like being stared at. I don't like being the guy who rolls through the block and everybody's like, holy crap. I do really like going fast though. And I just realized that when I got my Ford Raptor. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I definitely know that, for me, it's been just kind of like, going from college to CEO concept. It changed, I think, just when my parents like recognized or showed me that it was, you're going to have to, grow up eventually, and
Mhm.
having them, kind of help me a little bit, but not all the way, was the biggest thing. And, when I lost half my net worth, I will say that was probably the moment when I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. This isn't going to be who I'm going to be. This is not going to be the last of what I'm going to show in life. And I'll be honest, that really set me apart now in my life, because I will never forget what that feeling is like,
Yeah, getting
of
knocked
kind of
down.
like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's like kind of like, I was on a path of just not a good life. Not, no one wants to be a gambler who loses all their money, and it just leads to bad things. Besides that, sure, it stems from money, but there's all sorts of things that being a gambler who loses a lot of money, and it can ruin your life in so many ways. And I didn't want to be, that. And that's what really flipped the switch, was going through that. And when I had my back against the wall, I started trading conservatively. I started taking things here and things there. And I basically treated it like a business,
Hmm.
and that's the biggest change. I'm still the same person I was in college. I'm still goofy. My friends I'm still out there having a great time. And I really probably enjoy life more than ever now, because the reality is, before it was a grind to get it and to make it and to have financial freedom. Now it's such a different lens, man. Like, you just got to take every day in. And truthfully, like, I know that when you get to a certain point in life, you like look at everything and it just looks way different. You couldn't even look at it. You couldn't think to look at it like you do now in my lens. I never would have thought that I would look at life in the lens that I do now, but I'm very fortunate and blessed to be in the position that I'm in. And I continue to strive to be better in that lens every day. So.
Right. I mean, exactly. Me and you are, again, very similar in that too. If I went back and asked my 8-year-old self where I'd be, I would have said, playing the major leagues. And I'm not in the major leagues yet, but taking it from the lens that it's at now, and I'm 25, in the minor leagues. Looking back, if I could talk to my 8-year-old self, I know he would be like completely mind blown by that. But where I'm at now, it's like, all right, I'm here and I can look backwards, but I also have to look forwards. I've got a long way to go still, and a lot to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a weird perspective. You can look back, look forward, but you're just living in the present moment and doing as much as you can do.
And that's something that I learned from is there's no reason to go back and look at the past. Like, it's good to reminisce and to remember good times is one thing, but to dwell and to say, well, I should have done this and I should have done that. You're wasting your life. You're wasting your time. All you can control is this way. You can't, once I say this word, it's past, it's gone. So you just have to keep thinking futuristic, and that in itself is a huge leg up, I think, in any passion that you would have, is just keep focusing on the future, not the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do. You can't go back and change the past.
Yeah.
Like I can't go back and change the fact that I got cut in high school. That's what shaped me. And like you said, losing half your net worth, you can't change that. I bet you would have liked to go back and not lose $3,000, but the fact is that it happened, and it created probably a lot better version of yourself now.
Yeah, and it's important to take losses, and it's kind of weird, but what I generally say is the more losses you take early on, the bigger losses you take, the more risk and the better you will be as a trader in the long term, generally.
Right.
Um,
You see a
so
big difference between traders like you that have taken losses as opposed to traders that you've seen fly through and basically excel at everything? Because I know I've seen that in guys that have had it easy their whole career in baseball too.
I do. I have a millionaire, was a great friend, but also a student. And he has never really. He's the type of trader that does this, right? It's like kind of like this the whole way, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. And I'm more like this, like, I'm way more volatile in my account. I'm taking on bigger positions. I'm taking on more risk. And that's because I've been through what I've been through. For him, he's never lost, I don't think he's ever lost, 15 grand, maybe 20 grand in a day. And that's talking about a millionaire student. He's made over, I think last year he made $2 million in the markets. And that's without taking big losses. And I'll be honest, he opened my eyes to something that I never would have thought I'd been open to. He showed me how powerful it really is to, just take small wins every day, but man, do they add up. And that's no different than compound growing.
Yeah. I mean, it's, taking small wins, or like you said, being volatile, and, sometimes you lose a lot, sometimes you win a lot, but it's pick and choosing the right things based off of experience and what you know and what you learn.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and then also going back to one other thing you said too. I mean, you said that you don't like to live like a very flashy lifestyle. You said like you got a whoop, you don't have any fancy watches, fancy
Oh,
club.
I do have a nice watch that I just bought, but some of my hobbies are, I really like collecting wine. I like collecting watches, and yeah, I like staying fit, and I like going outside. Like today, I'll probably go outside and just enjoy maybe get a little cardio in. But
But you
I
won't
do.
probably. like go out and wear a watch trying to get noticed, probably,
No,
right? Like
no,
that's
they're
not
very
your
low key
intention.
watches.
Right, you do it because it's fun, not because you want to show other people how much money you have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, just based off of that, I mean, I've seen lots of first round high school kids show up at the field at the complex. They're driving lifted trucks, Audis, all that kind of stuff. Basically, just showing off what they can do. It goes down to buying shoes, how much money they're gambling, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure it's the same for you in your line of work. You see guys that do that all the time. How do you basically keep yourself away from that lifestyle?
That's a good question, actually, and that's one that I would say not many people ask. I would say, and it's an important question, I think. I would say one thing that helps me stay away from it, I guess, is just, I don't know. The thing is, I always play percentages. And in baseball and in basketball and in football, we all know it doesn't matter how much you make. Generally, all those guys that they made money, they go bankrupt. It's
Yeah,
just
a
the
good amount of
reality of
them.
it. Like Terrell Owens, right? That guy probably made 100 million in his career, and he's got maybe $1 million left.
Yeah.
And it just shows you, and I don't know, like, there's been many opportunities with building a home and in Mercer when I could have done some crazy stuff, but it's not, like, I just look at life logistically. Do I need to build a home that's 9,000 square feet? No. Do you, but like, would you do it? And does it, make sense? And, the reality is where I'm building, the average home is 4,500 square feet. So I kept my comps inside that 4,500 square feet. Logistically, I would look at a home that's 3,500 to 3,800. That's plenty big for two people in Meach. I don't want Meach to get lost throughout the house. That's the biggest thing.
For people that don't know, Meech is his little black cat.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I would say, I don't like doing anything that's not logistical to flex. The only reason why I've ever considered it is to motivate my students. That's the only reason. I think with these, two pieces of property that we're doing, that should be a lot of motivation. And sure, maybe I will, splurge. When you want to splurge, you want to do it at a younger age, not an older. I probably won't be getting Audi R8s and Ferraris when I'm in my 40s and 50s. But if you're going to do it before you have kids, do it before, you're in your younger life. And then when you're older, you probably get more logistical stuff. But what keeps me away from it, I think, is just seeing how many people in professional sport. I'm a guy I tried to see myself in my early on life to be a professional athlete, like just like you, like, but the reality is I'm 5'9". The reality is I don't have the natural ability of speed like some of these other guys. I've always been athletic. I've always been in the upper, abilities in almost every sport, but being a professional is a completely different concept. It doesn't matter how athletic you are. It'd be a good question to ask you, but it's like, it almost becomes like, everyone has the same amount of talent at some point. It's almost like how smart, how much film are you dissecting on each and every player and each and every AB, and what player swings at down and away, what player swings at high and tight, all those, being smart about your decisions, because there's a guy right behind you that's the same person, but he doesn't have the intelligence or anything like that to be able to know, well, okay, I can throw a 98 mile an hour fastball. So can the rest of the league. Now, what makes you stand apart? Now you're facing Adrian Beltre, who doesn't like it, up and away. So now that someone else doesn't, right? It just becomes, how deep can you dissect your decisions that you make? And I think that for me, it was just like seeing everyone in the professional industry of sports fail later on in life. And like I said, I'm always futuristic thinking. I was like, how can I maintain it? And real estate is one of those reasons why I bought two pieces of property, because they're mainly for enjoying life, enjoying the people around me, creating a home where both of these homes have nice gyms. That's the biggest part of my life, is staying healthy, staying fit, and realizing that it doesn't matter how much money you have, we're all going to die. So, time is
Right.
the most important part of every person's life. And so, yeah, I think just that really grounded me, seeing how many people can be so good at what they do and still fail.
Yeah.
And
I
all
mean,
those guys are probably better than me in what I do currently. Hopefully in the future, I'm going to be better than them, but I just am going to be smarter about my decisions and not blow my money. Like, I mean, I hear stories all the time where, these baseball players, they go out and have $40,000 dinners like it's nothing. And they go out and they have these big backpacks and these watches and they throw away their clothes. And I'm like, what's even the point? Like, I just, that's just not how I work, because I think futuristically is all. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, you see guys, I can't remember. It was just like going on YouTube. I watched an old YouTube video about the athletes, like the top earners in the world, like the athletes, and a big majority of them, like Conor McGregor, guys like that. Like McGregor had like one fight, like all last year or something like that, but he made the majority of his money, from his his alcohol company and a whole bunch of other investments, and I'm sure he did has
Proper 12, proper
proper
12.
12, proper 12, right? Proper 12. That's a good whiskey too. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you look at all those guys, I mean, they make a lot of their money outside of what they actually do. And I think that's what a lot of younger guys like my age and your age fail to see. They see that they have a lot of money in their bank account and they can spend it now instead of, looking to the future and how the money that they have now can make them comfortable in the future. I feel like that's an important thing to learn.
Yeah. And just, having a, 10% of your income fund your lifestyle, or 5% of your income fund your lifestyle, and just figure out a way to make that 5% grow, and then when we're probably going to be talking to a lot of young people. So, when we're in our 20s, if you start investing now, you will have so much more compound growth, and you're going to regret it. Every single person in their 30s and 40s, for the most part, is going to regret not putting some money into the markets, into the SPY, into the QQQ, or an ARC fund, something as simple as an ETF.
Hmm.
Because the reality is, unless you're living paycheck to paycheck, which is tough, but still, it's no excuse, because make that paycheck to paycheck a little bit of money to put away every month.
Right.
There's no giving it. I sometimes regret, even me, I wish that I would have learned in my teens this stuff, because I would be in
Yeah.
so farther ahead. So it's just important to just put some money away every month, and just let it grow, because that's where you're going to see the most gains, is when you start young. Because when you're in your 30s and you start putting money in, the compound return is less. When you're 40s, the compound return is less. So, when you start getting into your 20s and putting money away into the markets, it can really, really add up, especially in your 40s and 50s. And then you can have a different lifestyle then, if you'd like that. If you don't, whatever. Yeah. That, so.
I mean, you're giving me advice that my dad gave me growing up. And he basically said exactly what you said, like he wishes that he could have known what he knows now in his 20s. And I remember for high school graduation, you get like a bunch of cards and some people put money in there. And it's just like common for graduation parties, I guess. And instead of my dad just letting me, spend all my money and blow it and then it's gone, he made me set up an account with my neighbor who is a financial advisor, and I invested in stuff like ETFs and QQQ, stuff like that, at a really young age. And I mean, I feel like I see it slowly rising now, but I don't make a whole lot of money as a minor leaguer. I pretty much do live paycheck to paycheck, but if I can take $50 a month or something like that and throw it in there, by the time I turn 40 or 50, I'm sure I'm going to see a huge growth in those accounts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And that's important. It's not right away. And I actually went away from stock select picks for my long term in the past couple of months. And that was just because 80% of hedge funds fail. 80% of hedge funds, well, I'm not gonna say fail. 80% of hedge funds cannot beat the markets. So some of the smartest people in the world, who spend their entire lives working for these hedge funds, and they all look at these people like they're really smart and they know what they're doing. 80% of the people do not even beat the SPY. So I put about 10 to 50% of my time max into long-term ideas. So I decided I'm just going to go into ETFs, which will beat 80% of the hedge funds until I have to focus on a part of my life where then I will start individually stock selection, probably in my late 20s to early 30s is probably going to be when I start actually picking stock selection. But just remember that, 80% of the people who are supposed to know what they're doing cannot even beat the markets.
Right.
And
That's crazy.
so no reason to not be in an ETF rather than trying to stock select. You might be right, but overall, it's the emotional thing that screws everyone up. You might be up 100% NVIDIA and take it off the table and watch it run another 1,000%. And then when you watch it run, you finally get FOMO when it's up 1,000% and watch it tank 50%.
Yeah.
It is such a mind game in this world that we live in. And that's exactly why you might get yourself into a stock that's doing great, but it's emotionally, psychologically, this is very, very difficult. It's all, how can I get myself in a good situation every time and not act like a human, act like someone that's done research and be disciplined.
Right. It's hard because, humans want that instant gratification, especially now when we all have phones in our pockets, computers in front of our faces. You've got access to all this stuff immediately. And it's tough to see when you're on Instagram, when you're on Reddit, when you're on whatever, and you're seeing people, trying to blow up stocks, tweeting, posting about how much money they make. It's really, you could tell me if you know better, but I see it as kind of a problem. I mean, as giving these 14, 15, 16-year-olds that are just starting to learn about finances, the need for instant gratification, because they see that and they want that now. They don't want to wait. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's tough because like I look at it like as a motivating thing when I see it, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you definitely don't want people to think instant gratification because it's not. And the end of the day, you hope that they're smart enough to realize that, that everyone's hopefully in the world not, thinking that they can just make $1 million in one day because, it's just there's so much competition in finance. It's unreal. And to ever think that you're smarter than anyone is never a good place to be. I'll tell you that, because you just got to stay humble every day. You got to take every day, one day at a time, just stick to your plan. And you start getting cocky and you're going to take 2 steps forward and, 5 steps back. So
it's really easy to, I mean, when you start finding some success, it's really easy to go that route, but especially for people that have never had failure in their life. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at some of the things that you've done, one of the first things that I saw that kind of showed that you were starting to become successful is that you went to Vegas to meet some business partners early on in like your trading career, it seemed like. And you went to, what was it? It was you got invited to speak at Trade Ideas back in 2018 in front of what was probably a couple thousand people. What was that time like for you? Was there like a realization that you can now reach that many people, and what did that feel like?
Going into that, I was, I had just hit my that literally, but right before I flew out that day, I had hit my $1 million, my $1,000 to $1 million day. That was the day I did it, and I wired, I think, 400 grand into my bank account that day. I hadn't pulled anything that entire challenge. And I was like, well, here's the moment, here's the moment where I find out if this does hit my bank account, if everything was worth it or not. And I was trading on what's called stock trade at the time. So it wasn't the most well-known brokerage. And I was definitely nervous that it was going to come through because it was peer-to-peer trading. And I never really heard of that. It's not when you trade on the market. It's basically like a big surface of people. You're taking liquidity from people who are using stock trade. And if somebody's selling here, you're going to buy their shares. It's peer-to-peer trading.
Gotcha.
So the wire came through, And then I felt very confident when I saw that, like, wow, like it's official. Like I do really have this $1 million, and my life is now completely changed. And going into that conference, I had a lot of confidence because of that, because I felt like I deserved to be there, because I felt like I've proven myself at that point, because I felt like, everything I've done has been a very hard period of my life, but at the same time, a very rewarding period of my life. And what it was like to speak in front of thousands of people, I would say, um, I don't know. When you focus so much on your plan, your process, and your strategy, it just feels like another day. I'll be honest. Like
Hmm.
I focus so much on what I do and perfecting my craft that it's just another day. Like sure I hadn't spoken in front of thousands, but I spoken in front of hundreds, and at the time, and um, being invited to that was awesome. Meeting a lot of people, very very knowledgeable, wealthy people, and I was 24 at the time, I think 23, something like that. So I was definitely the youngest there by far. And so maybe I was a little nervous, but I felt like I deserved to be there. I felt like I had put in the work, and I just felt like I was trying to motivate, inspire, give people some insight on what it's like to think like me, and hopefully that gives you some motivation or some ideas to help yourself become to get more of a foundation behind you, let's say.
Now, would you say if that wire transfer that you had go through, if you did that the day after the conference, the day after you spoke, would you have as much confidence the day that you spoke or not?
That's a good question. um, I
Seeing
would
it in such a physical way like that.
I would say not as much. No, no, because I would feel like, since I'm already the youngest one there, since I already have the most to prove, that I really haven't done anything. I wouldn't like, and I would, but at the same time, I know how much I've studied, I know how much time I've put
Mhm.
in, and I know what I'm talking about is 98% right. Um, and so yeah, it would have changed a little bit, but not a lot. No, I
Yeah,
would have been
yeah,
more disappointed than anything, because I know that I could do it. I just would hate to be in that position and not obviously see that wire go through.
yeah. I mean, that's definitely why I said, if you did the wire transfer the day after, because I'm sure your confidence would have changed if you would have done it the day before and it not have gone through.
Yeah,
I'm sure that would have been like a no brainer. That would have been kind of devastating to everybody.
yeah.
But I'm sure you gave lots of like good motivational advice and stuff at the summit and everything. But you also give a lot of good motivational and financial advice on your Instagram. And if anybody out there doesn't follow it, I 1,000% suggest that you follow it. It's just at Noremac Noramac Newell Newall Trading, Noremac Newell Trading. But
So
one
I'll spell it for you. It's Noremac
oh, it's not A.
Trading. Yeah,
Oh, I
you're all
blew it.
good.
I blew it.
You're all good. I just don't want people to end up, because I got so many scam accounts on Instagram. I don't want people to go to the wrong freaking account. Because
All right.
that's another thing I'm having to deal with, is just like I am trying to, I'm haven't tried hard enough to get verified, because I have multiple accounts, but I need to, because I just keep getting swarmed with all these freaking scammers that have no, I don't get it, man. The way that they think is just like, I don't know. Terrible
I mean,
mindset.
if you've got a lot of money, people are going to want to pay to figure that out. And if I'm thinking from the mind of a scammer, I'm thinking about how I can make money. If I impersonated you and then tried to get people to pay for my services, but I didn't know anything, it could work. So
No, I know that it probably has, which is unfortunate, but I try and steer people away from it as best I can.
yeah, it's a problem. But definitely in one of your Instagram posts, you do reference that you blew up 3 different trading accounts in one day and lost $3,000. We already talked about half of your net worth at that time, and you could have given up, but because you got scared, continued to work at Dominoes, but you wanted to prove yourself. And I capitalized those letters, and I believe you said that a couple times throughout the interview too. Prove to yourself that you could do it, and that it's uphill since then. I know what I did to prove to myself that I could keep playing baseball after getting myself cut in high school. But how were you able to prove it to yourself that you could still do it?
Yeah, I mean, I just, um, I kept, coming back every day. I kept hitting base hits. I kept showing up. I kept putting in the time. I kept wanting it. I kept seeing it out there. And I just needed to figure out how I was going to put myself in the situation where I actually capitalize on it. And no one was better than me. No one was worse than me. It's just, I just put myself in a position where if I keep coming back every day, if I keep trying hard, if I keep myself motivated, you know, things would good would come of it. And it was just important to prove to me that I had it in me. Because I am so competitive and I am very driven in my life and mainly everything that I do. I like to I think it's a good quote is if you're ever going to do something, do it 100% because everything else behind it will then resemble that. And I just try and do everything in my life at 100%. And I don't try and give 20% here, 60% there. I try and keep everything, you know, at a very high level. And I love it. I love pushing. I love grinding. There's times where it's time to take some time off. It's time to go vacation. It's time to enjoy what I've done. And then over the past 7 to 8
Of course,
months,
yeah.
I should have done that. I was up a massive amount of money in the first 3 months last year. And then the last 9 months, I basically just broke even, kind of just ups and downs and ups and downs. And that was just because I was so high and mighty. So like I can do it. And the liquidity ran out. The volatility wasn't quite the same. My aggression was way too high. I could have gone out, spent those 9 months vacation, and maybe not 9 months, but a couple months just vacationing anywhere and everywhere. Instead, I paid tuition in the markets. But on the flip side, I learned so much throughout that. And I know that I'm way better than I was last year. It's just a matter of showing it now and hopefully getting some range back in the markets.
Again, I mean, that comes from what you said earlier, not looking in the past, looking in the future. I'm sure, it would have been nice to take time and travel for those months and not, spend time breaking even for 9 months, but it is what it is. And
Yeah.
and
I
and
need to be blessed with what I've already did. At least I didn't lose anything.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But all right, so the last question that I've got for you, you've got a website that has over 60,000 members, and you offer services and products to help people try to learn the day trading process. Is there anything that you'd like to do in the future with that amount of outreach and influence in terms of like, potentially getting into nonprofit work or like charity work, or just for something that you're really passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, I have a futuristic mindset and I have like goals that I want to hit along the way to get there. And I was doing basically a lot of giveaways to my fans.
Mm.
Like they would either retweet something that I said or they would like get a question right out of a post that I would make and they'd be a random winner. We just donated as well $1,000 to basically a person who literally he makes sandwiches in New York, and he on Christmas Eve goes out and gives all these sandwiches to like he's got a sandwich shop. He makes them all, and then he'll give them out to people that are in need. And so we basically just, I mean, I can't tell you how many sandwiches. I just gave him $1,000, but man, I guess he made like 4,000 sandwiches, and there's more than enough to go around. But things like that, it really does. The little things like that create enjoyment in my life and are becoming more and more of a part of my life. And it's just all about making sure I do everything smart. And then, but there is a future for maybe a foundation or something along the lines of that. But so far, I've done a lot of food. I'm more of like, I hate to see people go hungry. So I give a lot to like, I think it's like harvest.org or something like that. And it's just a
Mhm.
little local place where you donate to people who are in need for food. And, we've donated quite a bit to them over the years, but I haven't really started my own foundation. And that's something that maybe I will do. I haven't thought a lot. I mean, it's definitely a thought that I'd like to do. But who knows? Who knows? I'm definitely trying to figure that all out still at my age of 27. So
Right. I mean, you've still got a long way to go,
yeah,
and a lot of things to come in the future for you too. But
yeah.
um, yeah, well, honestly, congrats on everything that you've accomplished so far. Congratulations on the new house that you're about to move into probably soon, right? Once it
Yeah,
gets done.
couple months. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, just thank you for coming on today and showing our listeners that being an underdog isn't just limited to sports stories of the world, and it can really be about whatever drive and desire you have inside of you to become successful in anything that you want to be.
There's no excuses.
No excuses. That might have to be the title. No excuses. So,
Yeah.
but thank you. I appreciate
No,
it.
I appreciate you for having me. Thanks to everyone who's listening. And hopefully, if anything, maybe if you didn't get anything out of today, maybe the one thing is just spend a little bit more time understanding how the markets work, because it's a lifelong skill and it's not going anywhere. It's the heartbeat of the world. And you can just learn so much. And even if you don't want to make any money out of it, just there's so much to learn. Even with Ukraine and Russia that I keep up with every day, there's so much that I learn about the world every single day that creates variables in the market that does affect the market in a financial way, but that's just the way that we have built things. It's just decisions in other countries that might change how financials are either rising or falling. It's just so interesting and fascinating to learn about every day. So if anything, just take a little bit from it and just spend maybe another 5 minutes of your day, learn about economics, learn about the world a little bit more, and it will benefit you, even if it's not financial. So